talked about this being a global show. Thank you very much, Jeff Probst, whoever island you're on this season here on Survivor. Welcome back to the Power Performances presented by Courtyard by Marriott alongside Ian Eagle. I'm Jason Horowitz.
You are a college football guy. You love college football. You always have. Try to put this Rutgers season into perspective, because a guy like you from the Midwest, you looked at Rutgers as a non-factor for many, many years.
Many years.
You thought, where do they play? They're in the Big East. And the way Greg Schiano has turned this program around, I want to get your thoughts a little bit later on. We're going to get the thoughts of the head coach of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights right now. He is Greg Schiano, one of the great stories in college football. Coach Ian Eagle, Jason Horowitz here on CBS Sportsline. How you doing?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing very
tremendous.
well. I know this has got to be gratifying for you. You're a Jersey guy. I actually make my home in New Jersey. Guys like Jason are from Michigan. They think that Jersey is an armpit. I'm trying to explain that's not the case.
I have never said that.
Yes, you do. You just come out and say it. How gratifying has this been for you to do this in your home state and now to get the national acclaim that the program is getting?
Well, it's been something that we've dreamed of, and there's a lot of people that have put a lot of hard work into it, and we're not there yet, but we're getting closer, and it's been a lot of fun. To do it in your home state is a little extra special.
You know, Coach, before you took over the program, the 5 years beforehand, Rutgers was 11-44. And, people were talking about it being a program that couldn't come back in this day's college football. How do you go about turning around a program, not for just a season, but making it a program like you've done right now?
Well, you hit it on the head. I mean, our goal was to come in here and build a program, not just a season. I think you could have done that much easier. You can go a couple different routes, but we were in it for the long haul, and we wanted to really get something built here. So the biggest thing was really changing a culture in our state, at our school, and then last but not least on our football team, and that takes time.
Expectation levels this season, Coach, after the bowl appearance last year, certainly people were talking about Rutgers more. Individually, what was expected of Ray Rice? When you sat down before this 06 season began, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that Ray Rice would be mentioned as a Heisman hopeful at this juncture of the season?
Well, I didn't really think about all that stuff, but I knew Ray would, God willing, he stay healthy, Ray was going to have a great year, because he really didn't get cranking until mid-season last year. Connecticut game was really where he started really running with confidence, and I really thought that if he had that confidence for a full season, sky would be the limit.
Coach, we'll get to the calls in 1 sec, 646-CBS-1000 if you want to talk to Coach Greg Schiano. But, Coach, Brian Leonard, after last season, came back. One of your main leaders, the guy who was he was your rushing attack for a couple of years. He's kind of stepped aside for Ray Rice. What has his leadership done for your team and helped you as a coach?
Well, Brian is one of the most special guys I've ever had a chance to coach, and you hit it on the head. To go from a guy that passed up the NFL draft and a lot of money to come back and knowing, he had to know, looking at the way that Ray was developing, that his carries would decrease. But Brian is the ultimate team player and a guy who came to Rutgers with a mission, and he didn't feel that he had completed that yet. And it really gave our program a great shot in the arm when he decided to come back.
Greg, I think people need to understand from a national perspective where things were at for Rutgers. I'd read the Newark Star-Ledger about the great high school players coming out, and you'd see next to their names Pitt, Penn State, Boston College, Syracuse, and you were finally able to make inroads in the Garden State and keep some of the star players home. How long of a process did that take? And for you, when you took this job, was that priority number one, the first thing you had to do in order to turn this program around?
Without a doubt. But, the tough thing was, you hit it on the head. It wasn't in vogue to come to Rutgers if you were, a New Jersey or New York City kid. So we made a decision early on that we weren't going to take players just because they were from our geographical area. We had to make sure that we were getting the right players from New Jersey and New York, the ones that could help us win a championship. So it wasn't easy, and it's still not easy, but it's getting better every day. And, that's the thing that makes this job and this program such a intriguing one, because the talent base within a 2-hour drive of our campus is incredible.
Yes, it is. Coach, let's hit the phones here. George, he's in New Jersey. He wants to talk to Coach Greg Schiano. What do you got, George?
I want to know about West Virginia coming up and what you guys think your chances are and what you think about that team.
Well, George, I think they have a tremendous football team, but that's all I think, because right now we have a huge test on Sunday night with University of Connecticut, and one thing that we do a good job of is taking them one at a time.
It seems like that, Coach. You know, you have had a lot of national spotlight games, going to South Florida on a Friday night. Now you get to play Connecticut on a Sunday night. You're going to be on a Thursday night against Louisville. 3-4 years ago, Rutgers would have never been televised anywhere. What does that mean for your program?
Well, I think that's all part of it, you know, and I think it's very important, because young people want to be able, and probably rightly so, want to be able to show their talents on national television. So, like you mentioned, we go from having no national television games a few years ago now to having 7 or 8, and I think it's just another sign of the direction the program's headed.
Last one for me, Coach. On that campus, how has the reaction been? I know for so long the football players obviously had to bite their lip a bit because of the way that maybe they were perceived out at Rutgers University. Things have changed quite a bit, I'm sure, out on campus, yes?
Without a doubt, and I think that's one of the things I was talking about when we first arrived, that we had to change a culture, and it's neat for the guys that are fifth-year seniors that have been here through some of those real tough years to hear them talk about the difference and how they are perceived out on campus, and hey, that's good. That's the way it should be.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this. You're a high-motor guy. You're still pretty much in shape. You ever hit the sleds with your defensive lineman?
I learned a long time ago you don't do that. That's how you end up with a cast on your leg.
Smart man.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with Connecticut and the rest of the season.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Coach Greg Schiano from Rutgers, 7-0. They play Connecticut this coming Sunday, a nationally televised game. And, wow, he has really done a remarkable job with this team.
Give me your perspective. Give me 10, 15 seconds on where this program is at from a national level.
Well, I mean, on a national level, they're 14th in the BCS poll, which says a lot, because everybody wanted to count the Big East out 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, when Miami, Virginia Tech left, and Boston College left. Right now, the Big East has more undefeated teams in the conference than any other conference in America. Rutgers, Louisville, West Virginia, all undefeated, and the Big East is back in play, and it should be, because he's bringing football back to the East Coast. All right, folks, it's a new segment here on the Power Performances presented by Courtyard by Marriott. We're taking your emails. Remember, right below us, well, not right below us, but right below us here in the video player, you can send us your emails, and we're going to go to one of the emails right now, and he wants to talk about the Tigers. Rick from Carlsbad, California, says, do you think the Tigers can come back and win the World Series? And I'll let you take this.
I think they can. I do think St. Louis right now clearly has the upper hand, and the Cardinals are feeling good about themselves, considering the fact that it seemed like they could just flip the switch when they had to. End of the regular season, in the postseason, a thrilling Game 7 against the New York Mets. I think the Cardinals, strangely enough, have that kind of magic carpet ride feel that Detroit had. And we could debate this back and forth whether or not that long layoff really hurt the Tigers. Ultimately, pitching hurts the Tigers.
Yep.
And St. Louis has gotten strong pitching so far in this series. Can Detroit come back? Can they win this series? Yes, they can.
Of course.
But I think St. Louis is feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
Well, don't forget, the 2 times the Tigers and Cardinals have met in the World Series, it went 7 games. 34, Cardinals won. 68, the Tigers won when nobody thought that they would beat Bob Gibson in a Game 7. Mickey Lolich, he won 3 games that series, including the Game 7. We may see some more pitching performances like that, especially if we get Chris Carpenter and Kenny Rogers up there again. All right, folks, the next new segment here on Power Performances presented by Courtyard by Marriott. What is this, 3 now? 4
Yeah,
new segments?
it's like a brand new show. Producers have come in and they've started tinkering. They're tinkering with the program, but they're all good ideas.
All right, Ian, take us off here.
These are some of the performances that were part of our production meeting and didn't quite make the list. I'll tell you, I don't take it personally. If one of my ideas, most of my ideas make the list.
Lying.
But Jason does. Jason takes it very personally if one of his ideas doesn't make the list, and we all have to kind of, soft shoe around Jason and the large ego. With that said, Michael Vick of the Atlanta Falcons. Jason loved him last week because he predicted him on a previous Power Performance, and Michael Vick did have a tremendous week. He came oh so close to making our Power Performance list, a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was a week too early on Michael Vick. All right, the next one, which didn't make our list, but definitely deserves consideration. 3 one-loss college football teams that all survived and stayed in the BCS race. Tennessee, Notre Dame, and Texas, all within the last 4 minutes of the game, came back to win and kept their BCS hopes alive, assuming one of the undefeateds in front of them falls as well.
Another name that nearly made the list. He was a little farther down, though. That's Roger Federer. Could go down as the greatest men's tennis player in the sport's history. Tack on another title for Federer. He is a machine and probably the most dominant sports figure right now, individual, team sport. It's got to be Federer.
I'd put Federer in a NASCAR and let him win the Nextel Cup race. All right, the other one, Clemson. Tigers, ACC, another one-loss team. 321 rushing yards between C.J. Spiller and James Davis, a freshman and sophomore, against Georgia Tech, a school that had only given up 430 rushing yards all season before that.
And finally, Peyton Manning of the Indianapolis Colts leading his team to victory over the Washington Redskins. You know you're good when you put up the kind of numbers Peyton did this past week, and you don't even make our list. Why? Because you and I look at each other and go, well, it's Peyton Manning. What do you expect? We probably could just carve out his own category here on Power Performances, and he'd make it every time. But Peyton Manning does at least get a mention this week on Power Performances.
And he does now have 256 career touchdown passes, moving him into 10th place all time on the list. It's only the 9th season in the NFL. All right, remember, 646-CBS-1000, the number to call and talk to us or email us right below. Tom in Tennessee, you want to talk about the Big East. Why not? Greg Schiano was just on. Tom, what do you got?
Hey, this is Tom from the heart of the Southeastern Conference. I'm proud of the Big East, but why don't you tell me the most impressive victory that either West Virginia, Rutgers, or Louisville has had this year, and tell me why I should be impressed.
You want to take that? I'll take this. All right. You know what? That's not necessarily a fair question just yet. The SEC, I didn't say the Big East was the best conference. I just said they had the most undefeated. But their non-conference record is very impressive. As a whole, the conference as a whole's non-conference record is very impressive. Now, the Louisville win over Miami is kind of tainted with the way that Miami's been playing. West Virginia's biggest win non-conference, Maryland, they went to Mississippi State. But remember, you schedule these games 4, 5, 6 years in advance. 5, 6 years ago, these programs weren't as good. They weren't ready to take on the competition. That's going to change in the next couple of years, so we can't really talk about that yet. We will be able to talk about that a couple of years from now when they start scheduling bigger schools.
And I think your point initially was a good one. Everybody was ready to bury the Big East after the defections, and at least the conference is showing right now from a football standpoint, they are competitive. Are they going to have a national champion emerge from that conference this year? I don't think so. I don't think there's enough national respect. I'm not even sure West Virginia would get into the national championship game if they remain undefeated. You might see a team with one loss actually finish above them in the BCS standings. It wouldn't shock me, and I think West Virginia in the back of their minds know that. But I've always said this in sports, you can only play who's on your schedule.
Right. And
these teams are playing who's on their schedule, and they're winning. We can't blame them for who's not on their schedule right now. Do they compare to the SEC? They do not. SEC is a much better football conference. I think we all understand that. But Big East at least has proven that they're not dead, they're not dying. Just because Miami has left, just because BC and Virginia Tech, there's still some good football being played in this conference.
And one more point on that, even at the bottom of the Big East, Cincinnati played Ohio State on the road very tightly and played very well at Virginia Tech. All right, time for our top power performances. And this isn't a new segment. This is something you're used to, but we're shortening it a little bit. Instead of our top 3, it's just our top 1. And mine has to be Michigan State. It's a team that set a record. Nobody else on our list set a record, so why not put Michigan State in there? 35-point comeback to beat Northwestern, passing Frank Reich's Maryland team and Ohio State beating Minnesota. They're my top power performance.
Well, Jason, you love numbers, as we know, and you love college football, and you're from Michigan, so you can draw your own conclusions about why that was his top performance. My top performance, I'm not from Buffalo, but I respect the fact.
You've never been to Buffalo.
I've been to Buffalo many times. So you're talking nonsense now. I'm there at least once a year. The Sabres. You want history? They're making history right now. The Buffalo Sabres have been just a great story in the NHL. They are sizzling, and Lindy Ruff, he might just lead this team to their first ever Stanley Cup, the 9-0 start. They are on the brink of making NHL history. They've already made team history. Undefeated coming out of the gate. There's no rust on this Sabres team, and they are the #1 power performance of the week. I say it emphatically.
Thursday, they play the Islanders a chance to tie the 93-94 Maple Leafs' best start in NHL history. All right, my power prediction for next week, we're going to the NFL, and Tatum Bell and his 5-1 Broncos host the 6-0 Colts. We know Jake Plummer has struggled this season. I don't think that's going to change. For Denver to win, Tatum Bell's going to have a big game, and I think he's going to do it because the Indianapolis Colts couldn't stop Ian running through the left side of the defensive line. And I think that's what's going to happen this week. Run away from Dwight Freeney. Tatum Bell's going to have a big day.
All right, my power prediction for this week, it will be Brian Westbrook. I'm sticking with that running back theme of the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You say, well, no, the Jaguars are good defensively. They are, with Mike Peterson in the middle. They don't have Mike Peterson anymore this season. He's on IR. Last week, the Houston Texans got Wally Lundy, a rookie from Virginia who was doing nothing in the NFL, to run through the Jacksonville defense. And I think Brian Westbrook is going to have his way, not only on the ground, but in the passing game as well. Westbrook could duplicate his performance from a week ago. 100 yards rushing, 100 yards passing, and don't be surprised if you see him, or receiving. Don't be surprised if you see him on this program 1 week from now.
Hey, if Brian Westbrook has 100 yards passing, hands down, #1. Hands down. No, but you know, it's interesting you say Wally Lundy. Wally Lundy could be this year's Sam Congato. And because
Gatto's already on that team. They already have last year's Sam Congato.
They have last year's Sam Congato. They could have this year's Sam Congato, a guy that comes in from middle of the season and has a great rest of the season. Maybe it goes from there.
I know Gary Kubiak's very high on him, and it just felt like he had to sit back and watch. He was inactive 3 consecutive weeks. Gatto actually got the start last week for Houston, but it was Lundy who finished and scored his first NFL touchdown.
All right, don't forget, we have email sections throughout the week and during the show right below us. Email us your questions, talk about power performances, get it in. It's cbssportsline.com/powerperformances. Or next week, while the show is going on, 646 CBS 1000.
Is that the universal sign for slash?
This way, that way. Just don't do it across the neck. You'll get fined by the NFL. For Ian Eagle, I'm Jason Horwitz. Thanks for watching this week's edition of the Power Performances presented by Courtyard by Marriott. Have a great week. Go Tatum Bell. Go Buffalo Sabres. Take care.